Today we are talking about the famous writers of this world famous books. The best writers come from different eras. They share their experiences, feelings, thoughts, ideas and imaginations with world.
Question number 1.
According to official Guinness Records, which is the world's oldest mechanically printed book?
The answer is Gutenberg Bible. The Gutenberg Bible, also known as the 42-line Bible, is listed by the Guinness Book of World Records as the world's oldest mechanically printed book. The first copies of which were printed in 1454 to 1455 AD. Printed by Johannes Gutenberg, in Mainz, Germany. It is considered to be the oldest printed book using movable type in the West, though in China there were examples of book printing many centuries earlier, such as the Diamond Sutra. There are 48 original copies in known existence, of which 21 are complete.
Question number 2.
Who wrote Frankenstein?
The answer is Mary Shelley. Mary Shelley is an English novelist whose work has reached all corners of the globe. Author of Frankenstein, or The Modern Prometheus, Shelley was the daughter of the radical philosopher William Godwin and her mother, who died days after her birth. Was the famous defender of women's rights Mary Wollstonecraft. Mary grew up with 5 semi-related siblings in Godwin's unconventional but intellectually electric household.
Question number 3.
Who is the first ever winner of the Nobel Prize in Literature?
The answer is Sully Prudhomme. René-François Armand Prudhomme was a French poet and essayist, and was the first ever winner of the Nobel Prize in Literature, in 1901. Born in Paris, Prudhomme originally studied to be an engineer, but turned to philosophy and later to poetry. He declared it as his intent to create scientific poetry for modern times. In character sincere and melancholic, he was linked to the Parnassus school, although, at the same time, his work displays characteristics of its own. Prudhomme attended the Lycée Bonaparte, but eye trouble interrupted his studies. He worked for a while in the Creusot region for the Schneider Steel Foundry, and then began studying law in a notary's office. The favorable reception of his early poems by the Conference La Bruyère encouraged him to begin a literary career.
Question number 4.
Who is the writer of the book Robinson Crusoe?
The answer is Daniel Defoe. Defoe was born in London in 1660 to a family of Presbyterian dissenters, and educated at a dissenting academy in Newington Green. He became a merchant, dealing in different commodities including hosiery. In 1684 he married Mary Tuffley. 6 of their 8 children lived into adulthood. During his lifetime Daniel Defoe produced, at a conservative estimate, 318 publications in many formats and on an extraordinary range of topics. Perhaps best known today as the author of Robinson Crusoe, Defoe is considered to have fundamentally shaped the novel as an emerging genre of English literature.
Question number 5.
Total number of detective novels written by Agatha Christie.
The answer is 66. Born in Torquay in 1890, Agatha Christie became, and remains, the best-selling novelist of all time. She is best known for her 66 detective novels and 14 short story collections, as well as the world's longest-running play The Mousetrap. Her books have sold over 1 billion copies in the English language and 1 billion in translation.
Question number 6.
Who is the first woman to win the Man Booker Prize?
The answer is Bernice Rubens. Novelist Bernice Rubens was born in Cardiff, Wales, in 1928, the daughter of a Russian Jewish father. Her early novels included the comedy set on Edge, Madame Susatska, the story of a music teacher and her young Jewish pupil, and Mate in 3, the tale of an adulterous husband. Her 4th novel, The Elected Member, won the Booker Prize for fiction. The book explores the controversial theories of the psychologist R.D. Laing through the central character Norman Zweig, who suffers a mental breakdown under extreme family pressure. A 5-year sentence, the story of an elderly woman and the 5-year diary she is given as a present, was shortlisted for the Booker Prize for Fiction.
Question number 7.
Who wrote the fantasy novel The Lord of the Rings?
The answer is Jonathan Swift. Anglo-Irish poet, satirist, essayist, and political pamphleteer Jonathan Swift was born in Dublin, Ireland. He spent much of his early adult life in England before returning to Dublin to serve as Dean of St. Patrick's Cathedral, Dublin for the last 30 years of his life. It was this later stage when he would write most of his greatest works. Best known as the author of A Modest Proposal, Gulliver's Travels, and A Tale of a Tub. Swift is widely acknowledged as the greatest prose satirist in the history of English literature.
Question number 8.
Who is the author of the book Gulliver's Travel?
The answer is the French Revolution. Charles Dickens is a foremost representative novelist of the Victorian era, a great storyteller and social reformer. A Tale of Two Cities has always been one of his most popular and best-loved novels. It is the second attempt on historical fiction by Dickens, and French Revolution is his subject. Always interested in the interaction between individuals and society, Dickens was particularly inspired by Thomas Carlyle's history, The French Revolution.
Question number 9.
The Diary of Anne Frank was originally written in which language?
The answer is J.R.R. Tolkien. The Lord of the Rings is an epic high fantasy novel by English author and scholar J.R.R. Tolkien. Set in Middle-earth, intended to be Earth at some distant time in the past, the story began as a sequel to Tolkien's 1937 children's book The Hobbit, but eventually developed into a much larger work. Written in stages between 1937 and 1949, The Lord of the Rings is one of the best-selling books ever written, with over 150 million copies sold.
Question number 10.
Which revolution is the historical source of the book Tale of Two Cities?
The answer is Dutch. The Diary of a Young Girl, also known as the Diary of Anne Frank, journal by Anne Frank. A Jewish teenager who chronicled her family's 2 years in hiding during the German occupation of the Netherlands during World War II. In 1986, the first critical and annotated edition of the Diaries of Anne Frank was published in Dutch. 2 years later, the Fischer Publishing House in Frankfurt published the critical edition in a German translation by Mirjam Pressler.